up on this episode of The Social Hour, Amber and I are joined by Jeremiah Owyang. He's the founder of CrowdCompanies, and he knows a lot about the collaborative economy, and he's going to tell us more about it. Plus, Facebook's weird manipulation experiment, and is social rad or fad in a bar? All that and more up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Social Hour is brought to you by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is The Social Hour with Sarah Lane and Amber MacArthur, episode 169, recorded Thursday, July 3rd, 2014. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fun-filled edition of The Social Hour from my home office. It's not anything exciting. In San Francisco, California, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacArthur in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Although 24 hours ago, I was in San Francisco. And unfortunately, Sarah and I did not get a chance to see each other. I was only there for a very short period of time. But I was hoping I might run into you, Sarah. But I was pretty much sleeping, speaking, and then back on the plane.
Yeah, you know, you'd think after the two of us having met once in person for a social hour well over a year ago, we could figure out a way, because I think that where you were staying, the neighborhood is not that far from me. It's within walking distance, but I'm in Petaluma, and then you're in San Francisco, and then you're asleep. And anyway, we'll have to figure out another time. And for anybody who's wondering, what's Sarah doing at home? I'm actually going to be flying out for a vacation a little bit later on today. And because of the July 4th holiday in the US, I was terrified that if I went anywhere in my car, I would get stuck on a freeway somewhere and not get to Paris. And that would be very sad indeed. But it doesn't mean the show has to stop. In fact, that's the lovely thing about Skype, is that we could do it from anywhere. So, Amber, we've got a great guest today, and I will not take credit for this because you are basically our booking queen these days. Who are we talking to today?
Oh, well, I have to thank one of our Twitter followers who recommended we talk to Jeremiah Owyang, who is the founder of CrowdCompanies.com. I didn't meet Jeremiah years ago, but we spoke at the same event in Orlando maybe 5 years ago. He's been immersed in this space for a long time, and we're going to talk to him about the collaborative economy and some of the work that he's doing today. Hello, Jeremiah.
Hi, Jeremiah.
Hey, how are you doing? Hi. Greetings from Silicon Valley. I'm down in Redwood City today.
Very nice. Is that where you're based? Or I know you're kind of all over the place, at least in San Francisco. You're often very near me. I can tell by your tweets.
Yes, I work in San Francisco at 5th and Mission, which is kind of the hub of the space. It's near Uber, Airbnb, Lyft, and Indiegogo. But I live in Redwood City, close to Facebook.
Oh, there you go. So, Jeremiah, I know that you were just telling us before the show started that your company, CrowdCompanies, which you're the founder of, is fairly new. For anybody who's not familiar with it or what the focus is, tell us a little bit about what CrowdCompanies does.
Yeah, CrowdCompanies helps very large corporations get connected to the collaborative economy. And if you've heard of companies like WOMA or Marketing Profs or socialmedia.org, they're associations that help executives connect to this new movement. And so I connect big companies, and scroll down just a little bit more and you can see the types of companies that are paying members. Some of the biggest corporations in the world are part of this. And we're 7 months old. And then I connect them to startups who are in this space, in the peer-to-peer commerce space. So that's CrowdCompanies.
For example, I see Coca-Cola in there. I mean, how does Coca-Cola leverage the collaborative economy, which is a term that itself is somewhat new?
Yeah, we should define the space first, just so everybody's clear. The collaborative economy is peer-to-peer commerce, where people are getting what they need from each other. They can either crowdfund things, or they can make it on their own like Etsy or from 3D printers, or they can share what they already own like cars, homes, goods, and clothes like Airbnb, Poshmark, and other types of things. This clearly is a business disruption because people are getting what they need from each other instead of buying it. So that's kind of why I created this company, is to help corporations figure out how to be part of this in the right way. Now, Coca-Cola has done two things very innovative. One of them is they've launched their own version of TaskRabbit called Winolo, where their own customers can be like partners and stock shelves for them. That's right. You could go shopping to Home Depot, turn on the Winolo app, and Coke could say, hey, do you want to stock the shelves? And you get paid for it. The second thing that they did just a few days ago is they are turning their own plastic bottles, the 1 liter recyclables, and they're turning that into filament for 3D printers. And they're working with Will.i.am to do that. So they're trying to help makers print out stuff in 3D printers, but using recycled Coke bottles. That's pretty innovative stuff.
It's very cool stuff. Very interesting examples as well. Can you talk a little bit in terms of some of the misconceptions around the collaborative economy? Because I think there are people who really don't understand the impact that this has on the way that we do business.
Sure. This has significant changes. So I don't know if we can do screen sharing, but I sent the link for the the collaborative economy honeycomb. Actually, you can go back to the website, but basically the collaborative economy honeycomb shows all of these industries that are being impacted. I'll just talk about it. I think it's the second scrolling bit at the very top. Unfortunately, go back up. So just wait for that to go and then click on that second one. So, for example, instead of buying goods from a corporation, you can get it from like Yerdle for free from your different neighbors. There, that's the one. Boom. Instead of going to a hotel, and if you click on it, I think it should open to the graphic itself, but if not, cool. There we go. There it is. And so instead of going to a hotel, you can go to somebody else's home. Perfect. You got it. So that's the green one on the left is homes. Transportation, instead of using a taxi or even owning a car, you can use Uber, Lyft, or borrow somebody else's car and get around or relay rides. On services, on the blue one, instead of hiring a professional consulting firm, you can use TaskRabbit or somebody from the Crowd and Elance. The green one is crazy. This one freaks people out. Instead of going to a restaurant, you can go to a stranger's house for dinner using Cookening or Feastly. People's professional chefs have home kitchens, and they're inviting people over. And the last one on the red, I kind of jumped around a bit, on the top one, is people are getting their own money from each other. So there's cryptocurrencies. People are inventing their own currencies, and certainly we've heard of Bitcoin. And people are funding their own projects instead of going to banks, such as Indiegogo and Kickstarter. And then money lending. People are lending each other money directly and avoiding banks in Lending Club. At the very top, you can see how crowdfunding and custom-made products like bespoke goods, like Etsy, that's the maker movement. So when you zoom out, this is the collaborative economy. The crowd has become like a company, and they get what they need from each other instead of buying it from big brands. So this is a pretty significant movement. Go ahead.
Jeremiah, it's clearly you understand the collaborative economy very well, and I can imagine that at many older, established, even legacy companies, there would be a lot of executives who would be sort of frightened by this whole thing. You know, oh no, nobody needs the corporation anymore. They're sort of creating their own. It's kind of this hive mind of goods and services. Do you find that to be the case when corporations come to you to help them take it to the next level?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing for example, the taxi industry has really revolted against this space instead of adopting the same principles and using these same technologies. So they're laggards in it. Also, we've seen the hotel industry has formed a lobby association to fight Airbnb. So we see that happening. And then all the rest of the things, we're seeing different industries fight it. I am trying to encourage companies to change their business model. And let me give you some examples of some companies that are leading it. So, Sarah, maybe you've seen Drive Now, the white BMWs in San Francisco. It's kind of like Zipcar, where you can rent a 1 Series electric from different lots instead of owning a car. A brand new BMW. That's a wonderful opportunity. And Amber, are you in Toronto? Is that what you said?
Yes. Yep, I'm in Toronto.
So you might have heard of Breather. That's from Julian Smith, and I think he's in Toronto. And
we just actually had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. He's based in Montreal, but often in Toronto. We had him on the show talking about Breather.
Perfect. So we're seeing large corporations and hotels copy his business model, and they're offering co-working spots on demand like Marriott and W Hotels. And then the last example is we're seeing big companies work with the maker movement to create products, and GE has really been the leader in this space. So we're seeing companies move into this space, and they're changing their business models to make their products be shareable, allow for people to sell used goods in their time, and to work with the makers. So we're seeing these changes happen.
Now, is the collaborative economy different than the sharing economy?
The collaborative economy is a bigger movement that includes the maker movement, crowdfunding, peer-to-peer lending, and sharing. Anything that empowers people to get what they need from each other is the collaborative economy. But I don't think it needs to be limited to just peer-to-peer. Obviously, corporations are being part of this now. They're creating businesses and new products that can be shared, like BMW.
And what about some of the impact that it can have on businesses? I'm just thinking from the social sharing element and how all of a sudden there is, like Sarah said, so much control being put back into the hands of consumers. I mean, is this? Do you see this something that's going to continue to impact businesses of all kinds, or is it still relatively small right now?
It's getting big, and I just been publishing and tweeting about some of the funding in this space, and it is absolutely growing, and so are the adoption rates by people themselves as well. So it's only picking up right now. Now, what this really is, to me, this is an extension of social media, and so this is a great way to talk about the social hour. For me, social media was the first phase where people created media and shared it, and we know those as bloggers and like this video here, and they share it on social networks. And the next phase is the physical world, which we can call the collaborative economy. People are making the physical world in the maker movement, and even with new tools like 3D printing, and they're sharing what they already have, their money and all those things we looked at in Honeycomb. So to me, this is continuing the empowerment of people, and people are becoming like their own companies. I mean, from what I heard from your backgrounds, it sounds like you are micro entrepreneurs. You can live the lifestyles that you want, and now we're seeing everybody's going to have those types of technologies that enable this.
This is sort of the beginning of what's obviously a shift in the way businesses are done. Some of them anyway. We have tools that we didn't have before. You mentioned the taxi industry is such a great example of an industry that is truly being disrupted, to use a keyword. But where do you see all of this in, I mean, I don't know, let's go out 5-10 years.
Sure.
Do you see a lot of the old the old guard of the Fortune 500 companies and people that you work with going away? How does it look when more and more people start to use these tools that have kind of just been invented?
That's right. So the media industry was heavily disrupted by what we're doing right now. And, This Week in Tech is the largest podcasting professional network in the world. And it came from the social roots. And media companies and journalists, they've been significantly disrupted. So that's been the last phase, and now we're getting ready for the physical phase. So we should absolutely expect that some big corporations will go the way of the dinosaur if they don't evolve and be part of this new market. There's no question to me on this. So some hotels need to figure out a better opportunity to change their business model to be part of this. So looking forward, let's do a future look to answer your question. Now that we can get things on demand, like an Uber or a Breather means we get an office space on demand, or if I need a place to go to work, I can find a co-working spot, or I need a place to stay in Paris, I can get an Airbnb. It means that we don't need to own things as much because we have access to them. And I'm quoting Lisa Gansky, one of my close friends. And the key tenet in this is we now have access to the physical things that we need in the world: money, goods, services, space, transportation. We don't need to own it. So the phrase that I like to use is, we can live like royalty without owning a throne. We have access to town cars, fancy purses, electronics, anything on demand.
And also there's another added benefit to this, which I've seen you write about a bit, which is about how it can help our future in terms of sustainability. Can you talk about that?
I wouldn't say I'm a sustainability expert, but I'd certainly care about the world that my own kids are going to live in. And there's two benefits that come out of this market. This movement is that people themselves are empowered, and they can turn their homes into like a hotel, and they can actually sustain and make money from it, or their cars into a taxi. And obviously the second thing is because people are using one item many times over, like a car, instead of it just being idle sitting on the street, we're being more efficient with the resources around us. Higher utilization of those things that are around us so we don't waste. And that means, of course, sustainability. I do want to leave with one point on that topic is we actually don't have a choice. So when we were born, I think we're all around the same age. I'm sure you're a little bit younger. But when we were born, there was about 4 billion people on this planet. And right now there's 7 billion people on this planet. When we're in our retirement ages, there's going to be 9 billion people on this planet. In our lifetime alone, the population is going to over double. So, I mean, the curve looks like this, right? Actually, it looks like that. So we don't have a choice. We have to figure out how to be part of this.
What interests you in terms of getting involved in the collaborative economy? I mean, and what does it mean to you as an individual aside from just starting the business?
Yeah, I'm living this lifestyle as much as I can, and I actually keep a purchase log of the things that I buy of durable goods, and I try to reduce buying things. I just want to get them on demand. For example, even my kids' Legos are rented. We use Play-Go. And they're sent, and I use shared cars, a co-working spot, Airbnb when we can. So I'm trying to live this lifestyle, and it's a lot of fun
Okay,
too.
I have to write this down. Hold on a second.
Play-Go, yeah. And I mean, I have like 3D printed stuff and art even in the house. It's not in reaching distance, but this is to me, this is the next phase of social media, where I've been very involved for the last 10 years. So to me, the last phase was media. Now we go to the physical world. It was a natural extension to where I wanted to head in my career.
Jeremiah, what were you doing before this? I actually know the answer because you've got a very public bio. But for anybody who's like, how did he figure out how to kind of bridge this gap between companies and the future?
Thanks. I was a founding partner at Altimeter Group, working with Brian Solis and Charlene Lee and a number of other talented folks. And before that, I was a Forrester Research Industry Analyst. And then before that, I worked with Robert Scoble at PodTech. And then before that, I worked at Hitachi. In 2005, I rolled out social media in corporate. We were one of the first 10 companies to go. So I'm always trying to be on the front edge of technologies and huge corporations.
So where can people find out more about you and what you do?
Sure. Well, there's my personal blog, which is a career blog, and that's Web Strategy by Jeremiah. You can just Google Web Strategy. Or if you want to learn about my company and you're a large corporation, you can go to the URL right down there, CrowdCompanies.com. And those are the two places to go.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to chat with you and actually really meet you in person since before I was just watching you on stage.
Thank
you. Can
we
call this in person? Is Skype a collaborative tool?
But until we clink drinks and actually have beers or wine or cocktails together, it's not real.
Okay.
Which I hope we can do. And Sarah, I'm sure I'll see you in SF now.
Thank you so much, Jeremiah Owyang, founder of CrowdCompanies, crowdcompanies.com. You can find out a lot more about what they do. Thanks so much for joining us on the Social Hour today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
See you later.
Amber, I feel like Jeremiah knows a thing or two about, I mean, he was throwing out companies that we were like, what? Never heard of that one. Ooh,
I know. I seriously wrote down Play-Go, and I'm really tempted to look it up now. Let's see, Play-Go.
Rented Legos.
I know. I love this idea.
I love it too because, again, I understand that Legos have evolved quite a bit since I was playing with Legos, but it seems like there's so many choices now. That's kind of a great idea, right? It's like, my kid is really interested in the Star Wars Lego set, but like it won't last forever. We don't want to buy a bunch of Legos and they're going to be scattered all over the house and the whole thing.
Oh yeah. And Sarah,
Great.
when you step on Lego, have you ever stepped on Lego? Because it really hurts. And that would be
it's happened to me many a time.
Yeah, actually. It really hurts. But the thing about Lego is I just also found a link to the site, play.com, pley.com, where you can rent Lego sets, just like Jeremiah was saying. But it is a great idea because I think you're right. More and more, I'll go buy Lego for my son, and I just can speak about this personal experience, and he'll build something, and then he'll break it apart, and then it's gone forever. So it's not like he's really saving those Lego sets, right? So he likes the building process. I mean, thinking about the idea of being almost like a little maker, he likes building it and making it, and then he's kind of done. So I love this idea. It's a fabulous one that I have not heard of. So great to have Jeremiah on and talking about some of these services that you would think we know, but we can't know everything, Sarah.
And also, I think that it's so easy to dismiss a large company like, I used Coca-Cola as an example, but you could say the same thing about Walmart or, one of the other partners that CrowdCompanies works with. But it's easy to dismiss one of those companies as old or stodgy or not hip with the times or that sort of thing. And the truth is there are people who are working at these companies who realize that we have to think forward and be more nimble with the tools that we use and be able to connect with the community that expects things that are new and different. So there really is a need for that, and as long as there's interest and people pointing corporations, people who work at corporations, in the right direction, it's not a lost cause.
Yeah, no, it's not at all. And I mean, I think for years we've lived in this world where we usually used to kind of the big box stores where you go and buy something, you throw it away. I mean, most things that we have in our lives, we really don't need them for that long. So I do love this idea that you're able to pretty much rent anything that you want. And then so these products are getting more used. And at the end of the day, it is helping as far as being a bit more sustainable in the future. So really interesting talking to him and seeing how he took that little pivot in his career to go from talking about social media to talking about the collaborative economy.
Absolutely. Well, before we move on, just want to remind everybody, Amber and I are shooting the show a little bit early today, and I'm not in my regular seat in the Brick House because I'm about to go on vacation. But we do shoot the show on Thursdays. Our normal time, if you want to watch us live, is 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern time. If you ever miss a show or you'd like links to subscribe to the show, which is completely free, or you want to go over anything that we talk about in the show, links, apps, anything, those all get put into our show notes on all of our episode pages at twit.tv/TSH. TSH is where you can find us. And of course, twit.tv is where you can find all the other shows on Twit as well. But yeah, do subscribe to the show. It's probably the easiest way to make sure that you never miss anything that we do. But thanks to those of you who watch us live, because your tweets are the ones that we read and we're able to incorporate into our show, along with other ways to get a hold of us. Although Amber and I are a bit partial to Twitter, it just seems to work well for us.
Yeah, it does work really well. So our first story, when we're talking about news that took place this week, is not about Twitter, but instead it's about Facebook. I think we always talk about Facebook pretty much every episode of the show. And this is one about a story that really has people up in arms. It's about this Facebook manipulation study that took place recently and the mysterious connection to the military. And I say mysterious because if you read this article that we have in the show notes from Mashable, they talk about the fact that it's really hard to trace back who actually funded this study. It's gone from everyone from the Army to different research departments, and no one's quite sure. It involves Cornell University, although they're kind of backing away from who was originally in charge of funding this project. And at the end of the day, it was like a test on the news feeds of almost 700,000 people on Facebook to see if positive and negative status updates would affect their emotions. So they were kind of tampering with our emotions on Facebook. A lot of people not happy about this.
No, a lot of people not happy at all. In fact, on Tech News Tonight, I almost said the social hour, I was talking to Anthony Ha, who's a writer over at TechCrunch, about this. And his stance was kind of like, well, Facebook sells ads. Facebook is very interested in knowing how moods would affect what we click on and our buying habits and all of that stuff. Is this really that surprising? And I guess I agree with him in that, no, I don't think it's that surprising. It is creepy, though. There's a real creep factor to knowing that a company has said, all right, well, we're going to, without letting them know, attempt to manipulate people's moods. And by doing that, not only show, let's say, yeah, my news feed seemed to be more negative than usual, with people complaining. There's probably keywords that are, don't or not or angry or that sort of thing. But then having to monitor me to see how my activity seems, to see if it's rubbed off on, that's where it gets weird, because you think, there's some sort of a spotlight on me. Am I one of the 700,000 people who, fell for this, and somehow there's been some record of what happened to me emotionally because of that? People don't like that. And also, Amber, there's no indication that minors were excluded from this as well. If you're 13, you can legally have a Facebook account. So that's another issue that I know really potentially was upsetting for parents, and just for such a big sample size.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about advertisements on Facebook, because I understand his point when you're mentioning you were chatting with him. Obviously, Facebook does push advertisements on Facebook, but you know that those are ads. And I would say when they're messing with their newsfeed, I feel like it just deteriorates further the experience with the newsfeed on Facebook, which I would argue is still not great anyway because of the way that they manipulate it in the first place. So everything's kind of out of order, and they try to predict what's important to you. So it just seems like at the core of Facebook is the news feed. And all of a sudden we have Facebook every so often messing with that feed and that experience. So it's never like a truthful, organic, real experience that you would have on something like Twitter with a real timeline. And that's what bothers me the most is I feel like they've lost a bit of credibility as far as how much we can trust what we see on Facebook.
Yeah, the Facebook news feed is, and we've talked about this before, it's a constant source of frustration for me because I will you might say something like, "Oh yeah, I just recently took a vacation and I had some pictures on Facebook." And this happens to me all the time where I go, "I never saw any of those. Let me search for your name. Then I can look at your personal timeline and oh yeah, those are because we're friends on Facebook." But that stuff is getting filtered out because of what Facebook perceives me to care about. And that's just not always true. How could it possibly know? So I think that this is probably a matter of the company wanting to understand better how we all think and behave. And I guess I don't fault the people who work at Facebook for wanting to know that, but it ends up sounding very creepy. I don't know. There's no better word for it, I guess. I understand that that's why it upset people. I mean, don't toy with our emotions.
I know. And I feel like the findings overall were probably not that surprising either, right? You know, they basically discovered at the end of the day that the more negative comments or updates that you had in your newsfeed, the more likely you were to use negative language when you were posting on Facebook. I don't know if you had to survey 700,000 people to really get to that point, but I'm not sure that the findings were all that interesting. I think this is probably just the beginning though, right, Sarah, in terms of how organizations, particularly government organizations, will potentially use our information and be able to collect data on us. And it's not going to probably stop at this point. So something we all need to be prepared for. Now, Sheryl Sandberg did come out and she kind of apologized, as Pando.com says in their little comic here. You have Sheryl Sandberg saying, "Sorry, not sorry," which is a little like her message where she said it was poorly communicated. And for that communication, we apologize. We never meant to upset you. But yeah, they kind of did because they were negative comments that were meant to upset people and change their language. So even that's not really true. So I don't know if the apology overall was really the best either.
Yeah, I guess she was the first Facebook executive. Obviously, Sheryl Sandberg is the COO of Facebook, number 2 to Mark Zuckerberg. But I started to see people complaining about this, like, hey, Facebook's studying our emotions and manipulating us almost a week ago. It was last weekend, I think. And the company was pretty silent until yesterday. And I believe she was speaking at a conference in India or something. She was in India for some reason, Facebook related. And finally, said in a statement, this wasn't handled well. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously true. The company should have just been much more upfront about this and communicative, and they could have at least spun it in a way that made them realize, we know that this might potentially upset some of you, so let us try to quell your fears. But they didn't. But she didn't really say this was a mistake. We should not be doing things like this. This is a social network that should be all about what you make of it, not what we are offering up to you, by picking and choosing things to either make you happy or sad or somewhere in between. But I don't know. At this point, what could Facebook say? I mean, nobody trusts Facebook anymore. The privacy issues with Facebook, it's kind of like, I feel like anybody who's even remotely savvy about how social networking works, sort of rolls their eyes like, well, Facebook's not in for our best interest. So you either use it because you find it to be a good tool to keep in touch with people, or you're against Facebook and you don't even have an account. And there are a lot of those people too.
Yeah, or just accept the fact that, there's the potential that they are going to do this with your information, and just kind of maybe pull back in terms of what you're posting there and what you're sharing there. I mean, that can also be very helpful, right? I mean, we all have to educate ourselves better to understand all of the different privacy settings on Facebook and how to control that. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's a free tool. And I personally think there's a lot of value in Facebook. I would pay a monthly fee to access a Facebook where they weren't messing around and testing and advertising. Absolutely no problem at all. So it would be nice to see that, but I'm a little doubtful it will happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, and this is pessimistic, I suppose, but I feel like this is just the first taste or the first public, really, knowledge of the fact that there's too much data about people. We have to accept that companies will want to conduct experiments on us through the social network channels. And that sounds so nefarious, but I really think that this is all about information about people and how it can almost predict the future in a way. And I feel like this is a trend. If this was a rad or fad, I'd say, well, I don't know if I would say it was rad, but I don't think it's a fad. I think that this is just, we have a lot, we have too much information, and people want to do things with it and see where it goes.
Yeah, they definitely do. So, which is why I wanted to mention this next article, because this is about a new iPhone app that just launched. There's an article in TechCrunch. The headline says, Citizen Me's iOS app performs a personality test on your social data. So this kind of ties into this a bit. The idea behind the app is that it analyzes the social conversations that you're having on specific social networks, and then it will tell you at the end of the day what your personality is, whether, you lean towards being conservative or liberal, organized or spontaneous, and the list goes on. They have something built into the app as well that will give you a sense of your privacy settings and when privacy settings are changed on some of the major social networks to make you more aware of those settings and help you to protect your privacy. Now, the review on TechCrunch at the end of the article, the author kind of says, it's not the best experience right away, but it's kind of neat to see some of these apps come out that are trying to teach us more about our behavior online and what type of information that brands and companies are able to decipher from it.
Yeah. I love these sorts of things because everybody likes to, it's like taking a quiz, what state should you live in based on what kind of person you are? Or if you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? Or, that sort of thing. I like these types of, in this case, it's an app, Citizen Me's app. But I think in general, these are kind of fun. I don't know exactly how I would change my behavior if for some reason, I like to think I'm a pretty liberal person. If the Citizen Me app told me I was conservative, well, I don't know if, that means I should change something, or that's just the way that I answer questions or whatever. But yeah, it's just kind of fun. I mean, speaking of data collection, sure, tell me a little bit more about myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it gives you a snapshot and an overview. And also think about the fact that if you think about HR individuals and companies that are constantly scouring the web and they're looking up your social media profiles and they're able to kind of analyze what you're posting out there with tools like this, they could also tell if you're a positive person or you're a negative person. And I don't know about who you follow on Twitter or a friend on Facebook, Sarah, but there's a lot of people that I have in my communities who are oftentimes very negative. And I think even that could impact them in terms of future employment if an employer was able to go and quickly scan and say, oh, we don't want them. They're very negative. It looks like they're conservative. We don't want someone who's conservative. They could literally scan and be able to go through a list of potential employees much more quickly and not necessarily in the best way.
True. This is actually kind of interesting. I don't think you mentioned it, that if you use this app, you can get a notification and a link to something in a social network's settings. Let's use Facebook as an example, but there are lots of privacy settings in different social networks to alert you when terms of services are changed in privacy settings, which, as we all know, sometimes it's not as if the service wants to make a big deal out of that, especially if some of the privacy is going away. So this seems like a really helpful tool, not just, hey, this is how you're kind of perceived online based on an algorithm, but here's when one of your your favorite social networks are changing their terms of service. I'd love a push notification every time that happens, at least for the big three: Facebook, Twitter, and gosh, what's my third one?
And LinkedIn, maybe. I mean, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I guess I would probably say LinkedIn. I was going to say Google Plus, but no, I think it's probably LinkedIn.
And the thing is, we've talked about this on the show before, where LinkedIn has a lot of settings that, in fact, you would definitely want to change, because by default, they ensure that anytime you update your profile on LinkedIn, it gets unfortunately blasted to everyone, but you can turn that off. So I think LinkedIn more and more kind of gets away with doing a lot as far as our settings. So we need to be a little more comfortable and understanding of how to change our settings there too.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so let's move on to something kind of fun. And I'm just going to pull up Vine here on my phone so that I can enjoy this as we explain it. But Vine, which is, of course, the 6-second looping video social network that is now owned by Twitter, has introduced something that's kind of cool, and that is loop counts. Now, when you look at a Vine video, this is the San Francisco Giants, which is a baseball team. I follow their account in Vine. When you're watching a video, which it's buffering a little bit, but last night, it's kind of funny, at AT&T Park, which is the home stadium that they play at, which I can actually see, I can see the sky above it. They had a little fireworks show last night because the 4th of July is tomorrow in the US. And it looks like there's a Vine of, the fireworks going off. I don't know how much you can see of those, a little bit. So up in the upper right-hand corner now, because the San Francisco Giants are followed by a lot of folks, I can now see, and I know that that's a little bit hard to see because it's somewhat bright in my room, that this has been looped 5,447 times. 5,448 times, 5,040, because I'm watching it over and over so I can actually see the loop count go up in real time. Now, if there were a bunch of us watching, then I would see those numbers climb, by a factor of 10 or 20 or that sort of thing. And Amber, I have to say, it's almost as fascinating as watching the video itself, because you get an idea of, oh, wow, there are a lot of people watching this video right now, and just kind of watching it over and over, because there is some sort of like some Vines, and some people are better at than others. There is sort of like a rhythmic quality, like the looping is sort of part of the fun. I like it. I think it's somewhat addicting.
And I think also, with richer analytics, to think about all the Vine stars, including when we had Stuart, I think Butterfield is his name, on the show. More and more of them are going to require that they have richer analytics to be able to sell their Vines to brands. And so it just helps that process all together. So I think it's a great move for Vine to do this. And I'm sure a lot of people who use it absolutely love it. But they're also, from a user's perspective, like you said, Sarah, if it's that mesmerizing just to watch it.
Yeah. I love it.
I think
it's great. That said, I still haven't uploaded a Vine in, it's been a couple months now. And it's not really, what it is, Amber, is I've sort of given up on, here are my Vines, everybody follow me and watch my Vines. It's like, I just don't have any creativity for Vine, but I like watching other people's. And that's funny because I sort of compare it to Instagram, because Instagram has video capability now. And on Instagram, it's really important to me that I post something every few days, and I don't want to seem like I am not trying. And for whatever reason, I've just decided, I really want to be prolific and, pick good stuff. And I want to get a lot of likes, and that's fun for me. With Vine, I do just like to just kind of lurk. Maybe like something or comment here or there, but mostly I just like to look through other people's Vines, and it's kind of interesting. I'm not sure why that is. It's a different kind of creativity.
I know, and you would think because it's only 6 seconds that it would be easier to do, but I would argue the exact opposite. I feel as though there's more pressure. It's harder to be more creative because it's such a short amount of time. And so I look at some of the Vines that people have done that have achieved pretty good results as far as the number of people who are watching them. And I just think there's no way that I'm this creative at all, because they're so well put together. So I think that pressure of having 6 seconds is, sometimes just too much. But like you, I love watching some of the Vines that are out there, but I just haven't gotten to the point where I'm using it on a regular basis. Maybe one day.
Well, maybe the loop counts will pull you in.
They might.
Finally. Hey, before we get to our tip of the week, I just wanted to mention, Amber, I know last week you said that you were starting to, well, not get into Facebook Messenger, but you thought it was a good service, the app Facebook Messenger. It has officially gotten itself an iPad app. So
cool.
those of us, you can run it on an iPad, but it was never actually an iPad app. So that's just something that's, it's a little something extra. Facebook is sort of notoriously late to native iPad apps. In fact, the actual Facebook iPad app, it took forever to get to it. I was using a third-party app for a long time, but yeah, if you like Facebook Messenger as a standalone app and you have an iPad, that is something that you can get now for free.
Yeah, it's a great little app. Okay, so we were just talking briefly about Instagram. This is our tip of the week, how to build the perfect Instagram profile infographic. And this is kind of, the infographic explains how to build the perfect Instagram profile. That's what I should say. It's not about building infographics, but about building the perfect Instagram profile. And it's pretty detailed. This was done by an agency a little while ago, but I think it's still interesting to look at it. If you're wondering how Instagram could help you in terms of building your personal brand or your company's brand, we'll put a link to this in the show notes, but it goes into a lot of detail about the things you need to pay attention to, things like, how long you should have your bio, why you should geotag photos, what type of hashtags to use, and the list goes on and on.
Well, what do you think? I think, it can be somewhat baffling to me sometimes why, like certain people are followed by so many other people. And I think, are they in some sort of a community that I just don't know about? And it's, obviously there are a lot of users on Instagram, so I couldn't possibly know all of these people. But yeah, you'll click on somebody's profile and it does seem like, okay, well, this person's pretty important. So I guess there is a little bit to that, even though you obviously just want to be yourself. I don't know. What do you think, Amber? Have you ever put much thought into your own Instagram profile?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've been using Instagram more and more. As we've talked about before, I kind of dropped off Instagram. I know, and I'm loving it again. But what I'm finding is that when I first started using Instagram, I didn't really have conversations with people through the comments. So I would post and people would like or comment, and I never really replied. And so it didn't feel like a community. But since I kind of started using it again on a regular basis, what I've been doing is making sure I go in and I comment and I reply to people and I see who's liked my pictures. And now I'm enjoying it much more. So it's not obviously the best platform just to push pictures out there and not pay any attention to the photos that you've put out and the comments that people have. So to really, I think, experience the community at its fullest, you really have to engage more and more. So I'm loving that part of it.
I do too. And I actually had forgotten what my bio said on Instagram. So I just looked it up. It says twit.tv and photos of what isn't inside my fridge, which is probably not the perfect Instagram profile at all, because that was me trying to be clever like 3 years ago. And then I never thought about it again. And I could probably I could probably do a lot better. And my profile picture is from many years ago as well. But hey, whatever. I think this is also something that if an Instagram was really not just a brand identity place, but something that you were spending a lot of your online life on Instagram, you might put a little bit more thought into it. I mean, it's always just been sort of a fun thing for me because I don't really use it. Nothing I do there has really anything to do with my professional life. But if it did, then yes, there would probably be some really good guidelines that you could get from this article, which, by the way, is at marketingthink.com.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I'm just looking at mine as well. I haven't paid much attention. I think that's kind of a lesson for all of us. Every once in a while, you should go back and look at your profiles across social media sites and see, okay, maybe it's time that I update my photo or I update my bio, because we tend not to change them over time. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, there's a few things there I could definitely change as well.
All right, Amber. Well, before we get to our rad or fad for the week, before we finish out the show, just want to remind you, like I said, we love hearing from you when we're live. And Twitter, if you tweet at Sarah Lane or Amber Mack, is a great way to ping us with questions and comments. Of course, the chat room as well. Hello, chat room. But anytime throughout the week, if you see an article that you think, the girls would love this, I should send this to them, or a guest that you'd love us to interview. We've actually gotten a few great recommendations for LinkedIn experts
Yes, we do.
because we had a request. What was that? A very dark studio in Petaluma today, for anybody who's watching the video feed. But you can always email. Gosh, Amber, I don't know. I'm starting to break down here at the social hour at twit.tv. Of course, you can leave us a voicemail at 2626 social. You can record a video for us. Anything you want. We love getting your feedback. It helps us make a great show each week. So thank you in advance. All right, let's get into our Rad or Fad. What is it this week?
Okay, Sarah, I don't know why, but I was thinking about you when I discovered this article because I don't drink alcohol. I used to, but don't drink anymore. And I kind of wish I did because this bar looks awesome. It's a bar in Kiev, Ukraine. And basically it's called the Check-In Bar. It's a bar where the more you tweet or you Instagram about the bar and about what you're drinking or check in on Foursquare, you get complimentary drinks, you get other perks in the bar as well. So they're trying to push in a big way in terms of getting people to have social conversations inside the bar in real time.
Well, I don't know. I mean, stranger things. I don't dislike this idea. What do you think? I mean, I know, but alcohol aside, bar can be a social place. You think of it as very real world interaction, but
it's neat because
I don't know. I mean,
they're very good to kind of express the perks that you get, right? So it's not just about coming in and saying, oh, come in and please tweet about us. It's not at that level. In fact, as they explain here, they offer complimentary drinks for a variety of social media activities, and that's well known. They're broken into 11 categories, and they're even on the menu. So for example, you get a boom shot if you do an Instagram selfie. So it looks like you get a free shot. You get a special drink for a mayor's badge on Foursquare. So all of these things are built into the menu, which is, I think, taking it a step further, which makes it kind of fun. And because you do get perks beyond just, 10% off or something, you get free drinks. I think a lot of people would like it.
There's a bar in San Francisco. I don't even remember the name of it. And they do some stuff like this. It's not really anything I've participated in, but it's a bar that's kind of like, it's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek popularity thing that some people sort of like to go for that. It doesn't really mean anything, but sure, a free drink here or there, or a badge, even though Foursquare is kind of downgraded the importance of badges as of late because it's sort of spun off into a new app. But I mean, why not? Hey, it's Ukraine. Let's have some fun. Not to get all political, but I think that they could use some. I think it's rad. Why not?
It feels like
it's not as if you're going to be denied entry if you're like, I don't want to participate.
Yeah, and it's well executed. I mean, that's the big thing, right? In these physical places where oftentimes you expect people to engage on social, but it's not executed that well. If you actually make it very clear on the menu, I mean, this could be done, obviously it's being done with drinks right now, but imagine hotels if they say, okay, listen, if you take a selfie from the lobby of the hotel, then we'll give you an extra 10% off. I think that is a great encouragement for more people to participate in the social space versus just encouraging people to do it just for the sake of doing it. So I think it's kind of bad overall.
I think so too. And it can be executed poorly, but it seems like this has been thought out. And as a brand to go back to Vine or Instagram or something, to be able to, use a simple hashtag, but you're in the lobby of a hotel or you're at this particular bar, near the entrance or the jukebox or whatever, can be a fun game. And sure, it's a little bit of I'm helping the promotion machine, but if I get a little something out of it and it wasn't hard to do, then I'm happy to do it. And it's kind of like a goodwill measure as well.
Yeah, I think it's kind of fun. So I think it's rad. I don't know if anyone has any other examples of stuff being done like this in their own town. I would love to hear about it. We could share it on the show. It would be really interesting to see if there are other bars, restaurants, hotels, small businesses who are trying this out, just again, in a more proactive way.
I wonder how many businesses will become savvy enough, not just brick and mortar, merchants, but will become savvy enough so that, the brands and the individuals start to blur after a while. I mean, obviously that sounds bad in theory. I don't want, there to be a bunch of, promotional, people waving from hotel lobbies necessarily, but it's certainly better than getting spammed by a company in my email, which is another way to reach out, which has become something that we all absolutely detest. So, we're trying to evolve how businesses and individuals collide, and I think it's rad. Why not?
I think it's rad too.
We got to think outside the box here.
And speaking of spam, we don't really have time to talk about it, but there are some new anti-spam laws in Canada in terms of email and how much businesses can send you emails. And it's be interesting to get Denise's take on that, because it's changing the way businesses in this country are able to interact with potential customers. I mean, I had dozens of people email me from companies and saying, hey, you have to opt in now to get any type of our promos or newsletter announcements. And so there's the government is kind of clamping down on how much people can spam you here. Pretty much the first country around to have done something this drastic. So anyway, look that up, but it's very interesting to see what's happening here in Canada.
Another reason Canada's awesome. And by the way, happy late Canada Day, Amber. I know that was on Tuesday.
Yes, I was flying to San Francisco, funny enough. Well, happy July 4th, Sarah. You'll be flying to Paris.
I know. It could
be screwed up this year.
We're just international women of mystery, Amber. I mean, it was so funny. A friend of mine said yesterday, gosh, don't you think it's weird that you're going to be in France for the 4th of July? And I was like, well, I can't even remember what I did last 4th of July. I mean, it's not like, all of a sudden I'm going to miss the best barbecue ever. I mean, of course, I'm happy that the U.S. can celebrate its independence, but I was like, oh, I didn't realize it was really that weird. There's probably going to be a lot of Americans over there if I can predict it right. But yeah, I'm going to watch some soccer games, football, as they call it. And it's going to be a lot of fun. But okay, on that note, I guess we have come to the end of our hour, and a fun hour it was. This whole thing has been a little bit surreal. Not that it's hard to do the show, but I feel weird sitting here, and it's a little bit of a bizarro day. We're shooting the show a little bit early for those live viewers, but yes, Amber, what do you have coming up over the next few weeks, actually, because we have pre-recorded shows. So no Social Hour fans will go wanting for new content, but those we've already actually recorded. So Amber and I actually aren't going to see each other for a few weeks. So Amber, what's happening in the month of July for you?
So I am going east. I'm going to Prince Edward Island. Usually I go there in July at some point, so I'll be heading out there. I actually have some work I have to do out there, which will be great. Some stuff to do on the island, which I can talk more about at some point. But I'm going to go there and work. My parents are going to look after my little guy, and my brother's girls are going to be there for pretty much the whole summer. So I can't wait to get back to the island and spend some time there. Looking forward to it. And I'm super jet lagged right now. Like I can't believe I made it through the show without screwing up royally, because I have that. Even though I said I've been trying to fight the jet lag, it's more of a tired situation. So I was like, okay, don't screw up. But like you, Sarah, in a few days, flying and doing all that travel wears on you a little bit.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So we've both had a little bit of a laggy, even though my jet lag hasn't started yet. I've sort of brought it upon myself without actually even leaving the country yet. So we'll see. Let's hope that I can sleep on my plane. That usually never happens. But all right. Well, we will obviously see each other online, and all of you as well. I'll be posting, pictures from my trip, and hopefully not being online too much. But I can't totally go dark. So we will see all of you very soon. And until next time, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacArthur, and we'll see you soon.